Have you ever noticed that one bad day has the power to make people question years of good decisions? It takes one bad sales month, a customer leaves, one unexpected expense, and suddenly people start changing everything. Not because the plan stopped working, but because their emotions started talking louder than their conviction. People who build great businesses, people who build great families, and the people who build great ministries aren't the people who never experienced loss. They're the people who refuse to let temporary setbacks make permanent decisions. And the producers understand something that most people don't, and that's that losses are a part of production. So that's what we're going to talk about on this episode of Under the Fig Tree FM. So something that we all must recognize is that every producer experiences loss, and it's not because they're doing something wrong. It's simply because they're producing, and it doesn't matter what arena you're in, you're going to experience loss. If you're a farmer, you're going to have to throw away some food because it's defective or an animal got to it. Same thing with manufacturing, you're going to have some defective products. If you're a business owner, you're going to have slow weeks. If you're an investor, red days, so on and so forth. We're all going to experience some sort of setback or loss, no matter what we're toiling in. And the sooner we could reframe that and recognize that in our head, the better it gets for us mentally when things do arise, and they will come up. And if you could reframe it in a more positive light, that's when things start getting better for you mentally, and you can move forward and figure out this stuff faster. But God also warns about this in the book of Genesis when he said, "Be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth." The word subdue means to trample over. So that indicates there's something that's not cooperating with us, and we have to conquer it, subdue it, trample over it. We have to figure this thing out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because God said this before mankind even fell. So in a perfect world, we're going to have to subdue the earth. When God creates a new heaven and a new earth, we're going to have to subdue that new earth and start from scratch and figure things out. And that's what makes things exciting and worthwhile. So I'm excited for that. And another verse that came to my mind when I was looking into this topic, it's from Habakkuk 3:17-18. And it says, "Though the fig tree may not blossom, nor the fruit be on the vines, though the labor of the olive may fail, and the fields yield no food, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of salvation." And what Habakkuk understood that most people don't is that your circumstance may change without changing your conviction. So your conviction is your bottom line. That's what your foundation is built upon. Whatever God calls you to do or what you believe he called you to do is your conviction. That shouldn't change just because something went wrong or these circumstances arise. Your conviction should keep you consistent, and no matter what happens, you should stay consistent with that conviction. God could change your direction in life, and your conviction may change due to something that God did to you in a circumstance. That's a little conversation you have to have conviction about as well. So it's that conviction, but it should not be a part of the circumstance. You should not be influenced because something wrong happened saying, "Oh, it's time for me to change my conviction." The conviction is what should change your conviction. If God really placed something in your heart and it's a conviction based on something of substance, of faith, not of circumstance, that's when you could change direction. But you should always just figure things out and understand that no matter what you're toiling in, even if you change your direction and you think this is the right way and you do it without conviction, understand that that thing that you're moving into is going to have its own problems too. So you might as well try to figure out the thing you're working on right now, is what I'm going to say. So conviction requires consistency. So now that we established no matter what we're working on, we're going to have some sort of issue or setback. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We also established that we're going to have conviction, which is our foundation of what we believe is the right thing to do. Next, we need to replace our emotions with protocol. And it all depends on what situation you're in, which is determines what your protocol would be. But as a previous wrestler, I know when you're losing a match, you're down in points by quite a bit, you need to hit a big move like a throw or something, either to get the back points and tie it up, or you need to get the pin if you're down a lot. And those are the moves that I don't necessarily work on all the time. I've never been good at throws, but it's something you should have in your back pocket in order to get back in that match. So that's the protocol. Also, best case scenario, if you're in a position of power, you're a business owner, the protocol wouldn't be a what do I do, it would be a who do I call. So the protocol would be having a paid lawyer that you know to call. It would be having an accountant if you have tax issues. It would be if something broke down, who's going to fix this thing up. So in that ideal situation, it wouldn't even be you, it would be a who. And a lot of business owners that started from the bottom, they're in the habit of fixing it themselves when it would have been better if they called that who. I know it might feel like it's not grimy, but it's just not as heroic as you fixing it yourself or whatever. You feel like I'm just using people. Well, you're paying them to do it, and that's their job to do it. So your efforts would have been best used somewhere else, but you got to be able to use that person, that who, in that circumstance to fix that situation. So the protocol, depending on what situation you're in, is when something does happen, and it will, what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to call to fix this circumstance? And we all should think about those circumstances because they will happen. So something that's guaranteed to happen, what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? What's your protocol? And that's what we all need to establish in the mission, in our conviction of what we're working on. So the last topic I want to discuss is trusting God with your finances. And I know this is a touchy subject, and I know it might make some people feel uncomfortable. And they might also relate me to a prosperity gospel teacher. And I think it's a shame of what people did to the word prosperity, because I think prosperity is a good thing because it's a God thing. And I think this verse communicates that very well. It's from Malachi 3:10. It says, "Bring the whole tithe unto the storehouse, test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing." So God says, test me in this. And nowhere else in the Bible are you going to see where God says, test me. This is the only circumstance where God says, test me in this, in your generosity. So you could give your tithe or above your tithe, but he's giving a free invitation for you to test him in this circumstance. And tithing is a very important thing to me in my life because growing up, my father, he made a successful traffic company, and he basically gives credit to the existence of the traffic company to tithing. So he trusted God with his finances, knowing this verse. And there were so many circumstances where he thought the business was going to go under. We weren't going to make payroll. So many other circumstances coming up. And because he stayed his faith in God and still giving God his 10%, he believes that's what got us through those situations. And knowing that at a young age, I tithe myself at a young age, and I definitely, from my own experience and my father's experience, I can tell you that tithing put me in a situation that's better than most people out there because I put my faith in God, and the last expense that goes out the door when I do have to, cut back on expenses is the tithe. When things get low, and they will get low, it's not like everything's all hunky-dory forever when you tithe. And you could expect this much when you tithe, that much. It's not how it works. You're going to go through some seasons of testing, and you got to make sure that you don't get rid of that tithe. You keep the tithe, and other things could go. Your Netflix could go, your food could go, but you got to make sure that you keep that tithe. And that's how you got to be with it. And I think this is the most noble way of creating wealth as a Christian. There's so many areas in life where Christians will surrender their life to God, but in tithing, they'll give some sort of excuse or they'll make this verse seem illegitimate or whatever. But as of me and my household and what my family, what I'm doing, I believe tithing is a very important thing, and I'm continuing to do it. So that's my take on tithing. It's very important, as I said. So every producer experiences setbacks, and a cash cow, they're not going to cry over spilt milk. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to keep pushing forward, and we're going to make this money. So that's it for this episode of Under the Fig Tree FM. You can like, subscribe, and by the grace of God, do your job. Thank you. Bye-bye.